Today on the Free Lunch, we're talking crypto, and specifically stablecoins. I talked to Leandro Meneses, founder of Mandioca. Leandro grew up in the coffee region of Colombia, studied finance in New York, spent 17 years in the American corporate financial system, most recently at S&P, where he led the Latin American coverage on economic and country risk. Then he did the thing that almost nobody actually does. He saw an opportunity and he walked away from the office, the salary, the bonuses, the security, to build something the banks weren't yet willing to build themselves. A way to move money around the world that is faster, cheaper, and more efficient than SWIFT, the transfer system we inherited from the 1970s. As Leandro puts it in our conversation, SWIFT is like a WhatsApp group between banks, a tangle of messages, intermediary accounts, and compliance checks, where a payment from Latin America to Asia can take 30 days to land, sometimes longer, sometimes not at all. Mandioca, using stablecoins, compresses that into 5 minutes. But this isn't really about a technical crypto transfer solution. It's a conversation about trade flow and what happens to a country or a region or a continent when capital can finally move at the speed of the internet. It's about Latin America's quiet hunger for dollar access. It's about the leap from a corporate seat to a founder's chair. About building a team that feels less like a company and more like a football squad. And about the heroic mission Leandro believes every person carries into their work. This is the Free Lunch Podcast, and now here's my conversation with Leandro Meneses. All right, well, welcome back again to the Free Lunch Podcast. I am very, very excited to be joined today by Leandro Meneses, who is the founder of Mandioca Payments Company. And we're going to have a lot more opportunity to understand exactly what Mandioca does. But let me just give a very, very short introduction to say this is a payment solution that uses stable coins, which is a kind of crypto solution. Mandioca was founded in the beginning of 2024. I'm guessing that quite a few people who are listening to this have heard of stable coins, aren't too sure what they are. They know it's something to do with crypto, but everybody talks about crypto and speculation and all that kind of stuff. So maybe this is an opportunity for you, Leandro, to educate us a bit about not only what you do, but also about what this whole industry is about and where it's going and where it came from. So, Leandro, I'm going to let you introduce yourself properly and tell us a little bit about your story. But essentially, just for those listening, Leandro was born in Colombia, in the coffee region, grew up there, then went to study in New York, and then went into finance and held down a very serious number of jobs in the finance world, and then took that tough decision to step away from a serious corporate job with all that goes with it, big money and big bonuses and security, and to set up a company which is now a couple of years old. So this is a great story. It's as you know, the frame of the Free Lunch Podcast is leadership. This is a story about leadership in terms of going into a completely new area, which I think you're essentially beginning to lead the world in a certain direction. Correct. So, Leandro, I'm going to stop talking now and ask you to talk about yourself. So tell us a little bit about your background, kind of what led you to found Mandioca.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. Very excited to be in your podcast for the first time. Hopefully it's not the first one and the only one. So about myself, I'm originally from Colombia, as you mentioned. Once I finished high school, I moved to New York. I studied finance. Then I ended up living in New York for 17 years. Mm-hmm. I was at S&P before joining my last corporate job. It was a prime trust. We worked
Standard & Poor's, right?
Correct, mm-hmm. Correct. But everyone knows S&P for the S&P 500, right, for their indexes, but they do way, way more than that. I was actually on the economic and country risk department.
Okay.
We were in charge of leading investors to what was the risk or what was the geopolitical risk of doing businesses in X, Y, or Z countries. Mm-hmm. And I was leading the Latin American coverage group.
Right.
After that, I started getting a lot into cryptocurrencies, but more as an investor. And for people that they don't know, like stable coins, there's two type of coins on the digital asset world. You have non-stable coins and stable coins. Non-stable coins are the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, the Solana. Like
Those are the guys that go up and down. And
exactly those beautiful roller coasters. those are the non-stable coins. When I started knowing the crypto world, my how I was seeing the stable coins was a way for me to have digital dollars to buy a cryptocurrency at the right time. Because at the time, now it's way easier, but the biggest exchange, they didn't used to have a fiat rail. So if you wanted to trade cryptocurrencies, you needed to fund your exchange with stable coins. So for me, a stablecoin was just the bridge between the traditional finance world to the crypto world.
Okay.
And everyone was seeing stablecoins that way. Like, I just want to have, you will hold USDT because you were waiting for Bitcoin to go down and buy Bitcoin.
I see.
And I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. So started to buy USDT, started to buy more USDC because it was more available in the US. And then I started learning more about like other companies, and instead of just buying cryptocurrencies, like you can also invest in very interesting crypto projects. And that's where I learned about Prime Trust,
Right.
a company that was founded pretty much as a trust. Every single license possible, they had it in the US. And then it was the opportunity for smaller companies that they don't have the money to have all of the licenses requirements to move capital in the US. You just go to PrimeTrade and they will give you all of the rails, liquidity, custody, but more importantly, like all of the compliance and legal framework. It was a fantastic project. But then it had some issues, legal issues that happened with the company. And when I was there, I saw the opportunity that there were companies interested of using but stablecoins, but to move money around the world. And apparently they said that no, that's not possible because there's many countries involved. There's different regulations that's a big compliance bridge. If you have a stablecoin, you can only send money from your company, so you will only be able to move money from Eddie's company to Eddie's company in another bank account. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. That doesn't make any sense.
So the application was limited by the
very limited, very limited, and that's where like there's a big opportunity. There's a big opportunity, and there was a huge opportunity that you need to be from Latin America to really see the opportunity, because you grew up in the UK, right? Like, you lived a long time in the US. In your mind, you never had an issue making an international wire or making a payment. You have an account with JP Morgan, you have an account with Bank of America, you can send money anywhere in the world.
Right.
But in Latin America, it's not like that.
Right.
Also in Latin America, accessing to US dollar is not easy.
But you initially saw the opportunity based on the need in Latin America to be able to make international transfers.
Exactly.
And then you kind of joined up the potential capability of stablecoins as being a solution.
Exactly. And that's where I'm like, there's a big opportunity here. And then I started looking at Latin America as one market, and that was probably my first mistake. Latin America is not the European Union. Latin America is not one market. Latin America are many different worlds, completely different, with completely different necessities.
Yeah.
And that was the first mistake that Mandioca did, that we treated Latam as a one market. But now we did that very, very well, and we treated Latin America as a region with different micro markets within it. So we saw the opportunity that in countries like Colombia, countries like Bolivia, Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico as well, there's a problem on how you can source US dollars.
Right.
One, and two, there's a devaluation risk. If you hold your money in local currencies, you're always risking that devaluation against the US dollars.
Right.
So if you think in the long term, the stable coins, just for LATAM as an investment vehicle would be extremely interesting because it protects you against
because they're
inflation.
stable even compared with the local currency.
Correct. So
I've always thought of it as being stable compared with crypto.
So I think that the best analogy for people that they're not crypto savvy, to put it that way, you can think of stable coins as a digital dollar. The underline of a stable coin is the US dollars. If we're talking about USDT, USDC, now there's other stable coins pegged to other currency like EURC, for instance, which the other underline is the euro. But the one that we use the most is USDT. T is for Tether, and is pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. Tether has reserves. Tether proves that every time they issue one USDT, they have back treasury bonds with the US to make sure that there's not going to be a depeg and that the USDT is always going to be $1. So by understanding that you have the option of having a digital dollar, that's when we really saw the opportunity. It's like we're not going to go against the traditional financial market.
Right.
We're just going to add a layer. And I think what we're trying to compete with is SWIFT.
Right.
Not the traditional bank.
Okay.
SWIFT is a technology for the 70s. At the end, people think that SWIFT is a way to send money. No, you don't send money through SWIFT. SWIFT is like a WhatsApp group between banks where they communicate with each other.
Yeah, it's kind of the system they set up to allow them to.
That is correct.
Right.
But that's technology from the 70s. Everything has been upgrading or developing on a very fast pace. Let's see, cell phones, AI, the car industry. But we don't see that change on the payment industry.
But if I'm right, and this might not be 100% right, but so there's an opportunity there to improve that technology. But in a transfer from a typical Latin American country to, let's say, an African country, that was kind of almost impossible before. I mean, it probably was possible, but it was going to be slow, it was going to be costly, and possibly even dangerous, right? The money might disappear.
Exactly.
And so that, yes, there's a big opportunity for you going forward with the traditional banks and who knows what, but initially there was just a need, right? There was kind of a necessity to come up with something that would make something work better in Latin America.
Absolutely. So as I was saying, like all of the technologies are evolving. Companies are evolving. They're introducing AI. Everything goes faster nowadays.
Right.
Except payments. So we saw the necessity, and then our clients were really, really struggling making payments to Asia, making payments to the US. We're right next to the US. And one thing that really blew my mind, you know that the two biggest cities in the economic world on the Western Hemisphere is New York and London.
Okay.
If you need to send $1 million from New York and London, that can take up to 3 business days because of compliance and everything. That makes no sense.
Right.
That makes 0 sense. Everything else is traveling very fast. For the US, that's not even an issue. But then if we talk about Latin America, we have an importer who was buying electronics from Asia, and then his payment takes between 30 to 35 days. Between searching the US dollars, getting all the approvals, the bank sending the payment, and the issue that he was always facing is that how it works with SWIFT is that you're sending money to Shenzhen Commercial Bank, which is not a very big bank in Asia. So, and then you're sending money from Bancolombia. In order for the money to land, you need to find intermediary banks where each bank has a bank account so they can do the settlement. So there's going to be 5 intermediary banks, 6 intermediary banks.
Each with their own commission, probably.
Not only that, not only the problem is not the commission, each with their own compliance rules. So now one of those banks is like, no, your invoice the date format of the invoice is not correct.
Right.
You need to change it. So now it goes back. And then you send it again. But now the 5th bank, the intermediary bank, is like, no, you don't have the address from the beneficiary. or our length for addresses is 35 characters and your address is 55. So it's this big problem between finding intermediary banks that it becomes such a hustle. But now what we're doing in Mandioca is that we eliminate international wires, we source USDT straight from Colombia, and then we send a wire from Hong Kong.
Okay.
So
Just pause for a second. For the uninitiated, including me, just take me through the process. Okay. You've just described the process as was with all these banks and intermediaries. So just explain to me, if somebody uses Mandioca, what is it they're doing and how long does it take? And just run me through the Mandioca process.
Sure. So step one, we need to do a onboarding of the company. So once you're approved, you have your access to our platform, and on our platform you have wallets, and then our clients can deposit USDT into that wallet. So what we do, before we were sourcing the USDT locally as well, but the margins are so thin now that we just refer to other companies or local OTC desk where you can just convert Colombian pesos to USDT.
Okay.
So now the importer of electronics has USDT on the Mandioca platform. He add the beneficiary, so he's going to pay GWulu1 import and export. He puts all of the information from the beneficiary. He uploads an invoice for the payment that he's trying to make, and then he just click pay. On the back end, what we're doing, we are selling the USDT in Hong Kong. We work with local time, so let's say usually our clients from from payments to Asia, they start doing this between 8 to 9 p.m. local time, which is 10 a.m. in Hong Kong. So now within 2 minutes, he's gonna have a payment confirmation, and then when he wakes up, he's gonna have the MT103. MT103 is message type 103 Swift that has a tracking number, and with that tracking number, he can track and he can see that his payments already arrived, and he can also use that document to legalize the import, and then with all of the local authorities to be able to start the process of bringing that merchandise to Colombia. So a process that was taking him between, in the worst case scenario is a month, in base case scenario 10 to 15 days, is literally taking him 5 minutes. So we're compressing the settlement time by using stable coins, eliminating international wires, and then making domestic wires whenever we can.
So basically, to being in very simple terms, you kind of convert the money into the stable coin for the transfer process. It kind of goes in the sort of magic hole at this end, it comes out the magic hole at the other end, and then immediately gets transferred back into the local currency.
That is correct.
Right. So it's a technology solution to a great extent.
Correct. But also something very important is that we don't convert to local currencies. We keep with US dollars. We that was another mistake. We spent a lot of time having local payment rails for our clients, CNYs, Hong Kong dollars, Singapore dollars, when our clients didn't need it. Everyone needs US dollars. So all of the suppliers, they get paid in US dollars. Either they're in Hong Kong, India, wherever they are, we make the payment in US dollars.
Right.
And all of these, nowadays, everyone has multiple currency accounts. So if they need local currency, they will convert it, but we don't get into that. And it's easier for everyone.
Okay, amazing. So how does the regulator who currently is kind of regulating all those SWIFT transactions and everything feeling about this new way of doing things?
That's a great question. Something that we learn is that we only work with products. Why? Because it's very easy to track. So for your questions on regulation, so Mandioca has a digital asset service provider in El Salvador. We are the license number 71 in El Salvador. There's very, very few companies in the world that have that license. As you know, El Salvador has been a pioneer on the digital asset world. They literally hold Bitcoins on their treasury. So it's been a beautiful hub for companies to go there, get their licenses. So we are a qualified custodian. So the process of Mandioca holding the USDT for our clients, we do that through our license in El Salvador.
Okay.
And for the process to making the payment in the US, in China, for the example that we're talking about, we are an MSO in Hong Kong. We are a money service operator out of Hong Kong.
But if I've understood correctly, the point about the product, tell me if this is right, is that you don't just send money. So if somebody turns up with $1 million and says, please, can you send this to Hong Kong? That's not what you do,
No,
because we
correct.
don't know where that money's come from.
That is correct.
Whereas if we can see that somebody is buying 2,000 gizmos from Hong Kong,
Correct.
and that's all worth $1 million, then now we have the paper trail. That means it's all completely legal and we're comfortable.
Very good. So that's why when I was giving you the example, the client is going to upload the invoice. And on the back end, we have a compliance team checking if the company that they're making the payment, they actually sell that product, that there's a tracking record of the company selling the product that they export into Latin America. And we have compliance tools that help us verify all of that information. Versus if this was a service, it will be very, very hard to track. There's not going to be a lot of documentation.
Right.
And when my client makes the payment, we work with a lot of small and medium companies, because the large companies, they already have this sorted out.
Yeah.
So the small and medium companies, they don't have their own ships. They'll have to wait for their container to full and then ship the product.
Right.
And once they ship the product, there's a document called the bill of landing, which we'll also give to our bank when they ask for it, but we also have it on the back end, just to make sure that now we're going to have the full compliance track of what's happening with the product. And that's something that we're doing very different versus other competitors, is that we take this extremely serious, because the last thing that we want to do is that other people or other organizations, they use our rails to do something that was not the idea of why we created Mandioca.
And do you think that, well, I would imagine that the big banks in US or whatever are looking at your type of business with a little bit of fear, thinking they're going to think how they're going to have to compete with you, right? And to your point, at the moment, maybe it's not such a big problem because they deal with these very big companies. But do you think that does the regulator like this, or does the regulator would love to come up with a reason why you shouldn't be allowed to do it?
I think it's a question of where the regulator is. So let's assume that the regulator is in the US. With this current administration, there's been kind of a feeling that they're pro crypto and pro world, but they definitely don't like the idea of money flowing in from the US to China, for instance. So I know other competitors or other peers that they use rails from the US to make the payments to China, and that has always issues.
Yeah.
Because definitely I think what the regulators don't like is flow from the US to China.
Okay.
Because of the current tensions that they have always existed. But
it sounds like from what you're saying, they're not so much against what you do and how you do it. They're just generally against the idea of too much money in passing.
Correct.
Just slightly different problem.
Correct. That is exactly correct. So each country has their own worries about this flow. So that's why we have invested so much time and money making sure we have the right licenses.
And back to your point about the individual companies in LATAM, that if you're kind of trying for a policy that fits everyone, you probably please no one, right?
It's going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Like how Brazil approaches stablecoins is completely different as how we approach it in Colombia. We're trying to push some regulations in Colombia. El Salvador has been a pioneer in terms of regulations. Argentina has been, under Milei, has been speaking a lot about stablecoins. But then I don't know if the word is favored, but I think the most interesting that is happening right now, it's Bolivia. And it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen with Venezuela. Because in Bolivia, it's a necessity. You cannot source US dollars in Bolivia. It's well, now there's a change of government. Not to get into politics, but the huge change now. But before, the government in Bolivia was the one setting the price of the US dollars against the local currency,
Yeah.
which is not a free market. That's not how the world works.
Right.
So the real price of the Boliviano against the US dollar was never real.
Right.
So the real price became the USDt Boliviano price. That was the real price of the currency. So now importers have the necessity of buying USDt so they can pay their suppliers, and also the other way around. Now exporters will collect payments internationally, and then they will sell those US dollars they will have internationally in Bolivia, and that became a way better business for them than the actual export itself.
It sounds to me a bit like so many different things, whether it be, I don't know, CDs ending up being streaming services like Spotify, that the people who are doing it the old way are going to resist this, right? They're going to be pushing back on it because they can see they're going to lose out, and but at some point they're going to have to embrace the new technology, new way of doing things. But especially if you've got certain users who it's like, well, it's not even a question of embracing. We can't operate without this now.
Correct.
So it's there to stay.
Is there to stay, and now there's banks in Venezuela, in Bolivia, I'm sorry, that you can have USDT.
Right.
Because it became a necessity. So now, like, it's not like, hey, we need to regulate these and see what we're gonna do. They're like, oh wow, we need to start adopting this.
Yeah. Is this indicative of a massive growing market?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's such a big need for this, because as I was mentioning within the technologies, like, the world is moving at a completely different pace.
Yeah.
You need everything faster. I'll give you a real life example. Like, one of our clients had this opportunity to buy at a discount his product. He does white label toothbrushes. Usually everything that you're going to need in December, you start buying in September, so you have time that it arrives. So he had the need for the payment to arrive right away. If not, he wouldn't be able to access the discount.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the supplier. They never done business together. They're not going to give them 30, 60 days to pay for the invoice. And then when he saw about Mandioca, he's like, where were you?
Yeah.
This is the first time that I'm actually going to be able to.
The thing is that what you're doing is you're cutting out the useless time, right? So I mean, you're still going to take a time for the toothbrushes to get them a ship and to go from one place to the other. That we can't change that unless you can come up with a way.
Exactly. With a new way of how we transport that.
That's your diversification strategy for the future.
Exactly.
But it's that useless time of 4 weeks waiting for a bit of paper to go from one side of the world to the other that you've turned that into a few minutes.
Correct. So just eliminate international wires, use stable coins, and then instead of doing international wires, we do domestic wires.
And would you predict that given, as I said, that this is a technology as well as a currency, would you predict that maybe in a few years from now that all of international transfers will get done like this, and the sort of old SWIFT will just quietly disappear?
It will be very interesting to see what's going to happen, because here we need to talk about something else as well. So in the crypto world, everyone speaks about crypto. On my perspective, crypto is going to change the world, but not the way that blockchain is going to do it. Like, the real world and what people need to really understand is the blockchain technology.
Okay.
Blockchain, in my perspective, is what the internet was in the 90s.
Right.
When the military, it was like a garbage technology for them, and then they gave it to all of us, the peasants. We never thought that we were going to be able to do remote surgery through the internet, that we're going to communicate through the internet, that we're going to stream through the internet. The blockchain is exactly the same. We don't know what the technology is going to make, but blockchain is redefining the term trust.
Yeah.
Is redefining all of that. So blockchain is what's going to change the way money moves around the world, and the stablecoins is going to be the path.
Okay.
But blockchain is what is really, really going to change the way money moves around the world.
So I have a feeling that I can think of like immediately two examples, but there are many. So self-driving cars. A couple of years ago, we heard lots and lots about self-driving cars. We heard items on the news about them, because we have amazing worldwide communication capabilities, right? So it's an interesting story. So it goes all over the world, and everybody, oh, I'm going to drive around in self-driving cars. And then actually what happens is that it takes a long, long time for that to happen. And I think that, and it will happen. I personally think it'll happen. If you go to San Francisco, you have a self-driving taxi. And so it's kind of like the very thin end of the wedge, but little by little, and probably in 30, 40 years, and I'm a very, very old man, if I'm lucky, I expect no one will be driving cars anymore. But I feel that blockchain is a bit like that. I feel like in business, people have been talking about blockchain forever. And there was a time, maybe 5 years ago, when it was like, oh, blockchain this, blockchain that. And that actually it's kind of hasn't quite happened. And so therefore there's another school of thought, which I know blockchain is not really very important. And I think that's the mistake. I think blockchain, to your point, is going to be incredibly important. But it's going to take longer. So just for the purposes of people listening, just explain blockchain. Just you give us Leandro's explanation of how blockchain works and what it does.
So in my definition, I always like to compare blockchain to, and I always do this example. So you bank, who's your bank here in Spain?
I bank with Caixa.
You bank with Caixa. You have your bank account number and you have money in your bank account. You know that that money doesn't exist there. Right. There's not a small box that says Eddie Ross and then your money sitting there.
I should go and take it out immediately.
Yeah, and not to get into that, but we all know that that money is not there. But you trust Caixa because you trust the financial infrastructure.
Okay.
Blockchain is telling you, you don't need all of this bureaucracy for you to trust that you have those funds. So blockchain is a open technology. And this is very important for people to understand. It's completely open, where you redefine trust. So if I'm going to send you, let's do it with Bitcoin. If I'm going to send you 1 Bitcoin, what the blockchain does is that it verifies that all of the information is correct. So on the Bitcoin blockchain, let's assume that there's a cube and there's 4 phases that the network needs to verify in order for my 1 Bitcoin goes from Leandro to Eddie.
Okay.
And the blockchain, what allows is that it verifies that process. And that's where the Bitcoin mining comes into play, because one of those phases of that square, they verify it through an algorithmic equation that only supercomputers can solve. So in one phase of the cube, you have the information from me. My wallet, your wallet, we verify that that wallet exists.
Right.
The other phase is going to verify the amount. The third phase is going to verify that the mining process, they solve that equation. And the fourth one, and that's why it's so hard to hack blockchain, is that it has a record from every single transaction that has ever happened with Bitcoin.
Okay.
Once all of that is verified, you're going to receive the Bitcoin. Non-intermediary, completely decentralized.
So it's kind of putting the whole trust bit, it goes into the land of computers.
It's an open verification framework. Correct. And everything is done through computers.
Right.
Everything is done through technology, but it redefines the meaning of trust. And it redefined the way that we interact with each other, because now I don't need a central bank, I don't need a financial institution to move, let's say in this sense, Bitcoin to one point to another. We don't need it. We just need the open source. We just need the technology. So that's what blockchain does. Now let's take apart that I'm sending 1 Bitcoin to another Bitcoin, and let's put this into our real life scenarios. if we put our database, let's say that we take Spain and all of the database from Spain is going to be into blockchain, and the blockchain itself, it's going to verify all of that information. There's no need for passports anymore. There's no need for IDs anymore.
Right.
Because everything is going to be verified through the blockchain and is nearly impossible to hack. And I say nearly impossible because in this life, everything is possible and you never know. And maybe in a few years, some hacker is going to be watching this podcast and laughing like, hey, I did that. I was able to hack it, but it will be very, very, very complex and complicated.
And is blockchain increasingly being used all the time? I mean, I realize it's being used in your business and it's kind of fundamental to what you're doing. But is blockchain finding more and more and more use in lots of other areas too?
Like in so many areas. Like what I'm telling you about the passport is a white label from a company that I saw that we're trying to do something like that. In the healthcare space, they're trying to do the same. So it's very hard to forfeit documents. I've seen very interesting projects using blockchain technology to get into real estate. Tokenization is another very, very interesting project of blockchain.
I know people who work in the kind of conveyancing contracts and all that stuff. And
Correct.
And they're using blockchain, you can cut out tons of time and risk from the process of buying and selling a property, for example.
Everything where there's a lot of bureaucracy, blockchain can change all of that.
But of course, the thing is that this, you're right, that in the end, the technology will win. But of course, the resistance is going to be great because many people make money from the bureaucracy, and many millions and billions have been invested in systems that are not using blockchain, that are somebody earns the crust from that. So it will take time, I think, won't it, to chip away. Maybe it's areas like yours that there was a definite need, and so you came in and answered that need, that begin to widen the kind of aperture of how these things are accepted.
It will definitely take time. And another aspect, Eddie, is that governments love bureaucracy, and you also have more control.
Right.
But that's a completely different conversation.
And taxation, and I mean, any number of things.
Everything in between. So that's definitely going to take time. But nowadays, things move at a different pace.
Well, something that's going through my head, and I will ask you about AI before we finish, because I think it's relevant too. But if we start thinking about blockchain and stablecoins and AI and combining all those three, it starts getting a bit scary almost how this might evolve pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a very interesting conversation that we've been having with my dad as well, because he's been like, hey, we need to start putting AI into the business. And then I'm like, that's going to be a very interesting mix, but it's here to stay. And we're going to see where this takes us. And I'm very looking forward to see what's going to happen. Like, we definitely saw that blockchain and stable coins is changing the way money moves around the world, but not only how money moves around the world, the real impact on this is trade flow.
Right.
Now trade flow is faster, and we already prove it that we can do this with blockchain because we can connect the world way faster.
So actually, we are talking about a sort of worldwide increase in efficiency and activity and overall GDP.
Exactly.
So we can all become richer through this.
Exactly. So we're a proof, and I'm not saying only Mandioca, but any company on the payment space, we're proof that blockchains has real life use case, and not only blockchain, but stable coins as well, digital assets. Financial institutions, they're offering ETFs in Bitcoins. All of the big names, Vanguard, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all of them, they have Bitcoin ETFs. And in order for them to offer Bitcoin ETFs, they need to hold Bitcoins on their balance sheet. So I think that the world has already proven that there's a real use case for crypto. Banks are already doing it. They're already following. So now crypto is here to stay. Blockchain is here to stay. And it's definitely going to change the world.
Fascinating. And I know that you're starting to work more in Asia, and I mean you're now living in Spain, and you told me that one of the reasons you came to live here is it's halfway between Colombia and or Latin America
Correct.
and Asia. So in terms of how you see Mandioca evolving, and I'm going to ask you a selfish question because I know somebody who works for Utila.
Yeah, I
And,
know that one as well. I know
yeah.
who we're talking about.
He was on this podcast at one point, but my son Jimmy works for Utila, and so just explain how Utila works with you as a partner. What is it they do for you that makes the thing happen?
Sure. So Utila, it's the backbone, is in the back end of our operation. So all of the wallets that you see on our platform are powered by Utila. We wouldn't be able to do something like this. Like, as I mentioned, we're moving a lot of volume. So Utila is not only helping us with the technology so we can custody those funds, but it's also helping me sleep better.
Okay.
Because now I know that there's a serious company with very impressive technology that help us protect our assets.
Right.
So Utila is the backbone of our wallet infrastructure, and they've been great partners with us. So because of Utila, we've been able to grow very fast, because without Utila, I wouldn't be comfortable and confident of holding so much USDT from our clients.
Okay. And I'm guessing that this is a classic case of don't tell me how it works, just show me what it does, right? So for your clients, I'm imagining that this is a very simple interface that they go into your pages, and that once they're signed up and you've kind of got them on as clients, that the process of sending money is extremely easy for them.
It's very easy, because one thing that we understood very quickly, our clients are not crypto savvy at all. Our clients needs to see the result.
Right.
My client don't need to understand how we're doing the whole process.
Yeah.
My client just need to move money from point A to point B. So maybe on the link from the podcast, I can leave like a link to our website, or a link to a few videos where in 1 minute you can see a quick demo of how the platform works. But we target non-crypto users. You don't need to understand the crypto world in order to work with us. We make this process as easy as possible for you. But the most important thing is that we hold your hand through all of this process and make sure that everything that you're doing is compliant.
Yeah.
We take care of all of the KYT, like all of the tracking, or which wallet you're interacting with. We take care of all of that for you. And that has really set us apart between us and our competitors, is how serious we take compliance, and how serious we take technology as well.
Excellent. What do you think it could be in 2 or 3 years from now?
I think we'll be in the billions per month, because we're just scratching the surface.
Right.
Like, we've been very successful in Colombia, very successful in Bolivia, very successful in Venezuela, but now, because it's a great area, we haven't been able to explore it as much as we can, as we want. But don't forget about Brazil.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Mexico,
Yeah.
Argentina, Chile, like huge markets that we're starting to get some traction, because we haven't raised any capital so far.
Yeah, that's I've heard something about you. So you're a bootstrap business.
We're completely bootstrapped. We haven't raised any capital. We're gonna get into the B2C market as well. We're gonna get into the remittances world. We're gonna get into the prepaid cards using stablecoins. So probably we're gonna start raising capital at the end of this year, either capital or debt, because now we're ready to put the full throttle.
Okay. Well, so everything you've said so far has been really very interesting. So thank you for all the explanations. Apologies for being so ignorant.
No.
But let's pivot the conversation a little bit to talk about the experience of moving from being a banker with a nice, secure kind of life, big office, probably a nice leather chair, plenty of colleagues, and probably a nice bonus every year to take that leap into creating Mandioca and becoming essentially the leader of a startup concept. But also, let's quite quickly move on to the next phase, because the biggest challenge that I see facing so many smaller companies is scaling, right?
Of course.
That you go from essentially being product experts, working on something to make it work. So everything you've been describing, you put a lot of time and effort in, it now works. But as you scale and you go into Chile and you go into these new countries and you do these things, and suddenly, I think you told me you've got like about 30 people or something at the moment.
Right.
So, you probably will have 300 within a reasonable amount of time. And then suddenly you have the same kind of issues and problems that are faced by every company, which is, how do you manage these people? What kind of culture do you build? Are they happy? Do people stay with you? Why are people leaving? How this person wants more money, this person wants more power, all the other things that come with people stuff. So I'd love to just hear your own personal take on, first of all, that transition, but then also your vision for Mandioca as a business.
Yeah. So to start with the first point, the transition was definitely not an easy one. Right? I was living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I just got married to a beautiful wife who has this expensive taste.
Of course.
So I'm like, okay, do I make the change? Do I not make the change? But I was very lucky that I have very pivot people around that time. I spoke very openly with my manager, very openly with my family, with my wife, with our mentors, with friends. And I think the biggest advice that I can have with people that they're not sure about making that change, one is you have to take the risk, but you have to take a control risk. Don't go all in and just put everything in black. Like, you really do your homework, but really believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Really, really believe in yourself, because then you can regret it. And that's going to be way, way worse than trying and failing. You need to try.
Right.
You definitely need to try. And then don't be afraid of asking people. Reach out to other people. Reach out to people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Reach out to people that you saw that was in your position a year ago, a few months ago. You'll be surprised how many people will actually answer you. And I go back on my time at Baruch, when I was trying to do internship, when I was trying to see what I wanted to figure it out. I want to do trading, investment banking, like what I'm going to do. And I started reaching out to people. And I was so surprised with the amount of people that they actually replied. Let's have a coffee. Yeah, let's talk. So I took that same energy and I do it like, should I do this? And I started speaking with my manager, with mentors, with friends, and it was overwhelming, like all of the information that I was able to get. And then you get this confidence. I'm like, all right, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked. And so far, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
And now, if you had to compare your daily life, if you like, when you were working in the corporate world, compare with now, what would be the biggest difference, do you think?
What would be the biggest difference? I think there's two main differences now. Like, one, it's that I was going to the office every day, like that corporate life, the networking, the activity in New York City, that excitement. Like, it's something that sometimes you could miss, that camaraderie, let's put it that way, with your colleagues. And you don't feel the responsibility as much as you feel it now. Because being completely honest, there's some days when you're at work and you just have 3 things to do. You just do those 3 things and you don't do anything else anymore. Now it's like you try to make your day as productive as possible. Versus the corporate world, sometimes there's a few days that you're like, okay, let me how can I pretend that I'm working the most doing the less? That's completely different when you own a business. Like, now you have to be productive, and
because it stops with you. That's really,
and you have to show the example.
I think my book is called "Where's My Free Lunch," And this is the sort of idea, the concept, which is that if you decide to leave the corporate world, where occasionally there is a free lunch, and you go in to make your own business, and sure, you don't have bosses anymore, but now you have a different kind of pressure, and there really is no free lunch now.
Correct.
It's every single thing that you do is moving. Every action that you take is going to make a difference.
Yeah. No, and now that you said the free lunch, definitely means those corporate cards, definitely means the flights and the nice hotels and the nice restaurants. Now when I travel, I'm like, should I stay at the 5-star? Nah, let's stay at the 4-star hotel. I think this when we work, and when you work the corporate, you're like, you have $3 budget for your hotel night. You're going to Brazil. Let me get 2 rooms. Why not? Like,
so that's actually a really nice segue into the discussion about your vision for Mandioca and the company, because something that I've realized is that you unfortunately, any large group of people does need some kind of bureaucracy, does need some kind of rules, right? When you have your startup, it's kind of like caveman, right? So everyone's just like working it out, and it works, and it's okay. You don't have to have rules about it. But when you have 30 or 40 people in the cave, you have to have somebody's job is to get the firewood, somebody else's job is to keep the fire going, somebody else keeps the children quiet, and you begin to have bureaucracy. And so that one of the things that I've observed is, as companies get bigger, they're very uncomfortable with the idea of saying, okay, these are our rules about what sort of hotel you stay in. Okay, you've now got 30 people, so people are traveling all over the world. And so you have to introduce rules. And something that I've realized as well is that you'll always get the guy who will always choose the very sensible option, right? And that person you'll never have to say one word to. And you'll even say to them, no, you're fine to charge your break.
yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
But then there's always somebody else. There's always some other guy who wants to stay in the 5-star, and he's like, no, I'm here in Venezuela, and I should be in the 5-star, and our clients will like it if I'm in the 5-star. And that's the person that you have to think, do they get my values? And so, given that that's coming, that's all coming. How are you coping with that part?
Yeah. So I'm going back because now I realize I didn't answer the second part of your question
probably didn't let you.
about the people, but it connects to these new questions. Is that remember me how I was in the corporate world, and then actually putting sports into the mix. Like, I feel that sports have played such an important role in my life. Like that, like playing football and having your teams, and then playing individual sports as well. Definitely the sport that I love playing the most was football, and having that other people, like the competing aspect and like the team aspect, like let's win this. I'm trying to translate that into Mandioca, and it's so important that like you put the people the Mandioca shirt, and that they understand their responsibility,
Right.
and that they understand that this is also yours. And I feel that by creating that culture, that now is a little bit easier because we're not that big, but I feel that we've been doing a very good job like transmitting that into the people from Mandioca. Like they have the Mandioca shirt.
Yeah.
When they go out on every day, when they start working, they have that shirt. Like they feel that they're fighting against something, that they have that identity. And I am aware that the bigger the company is gonna get, the harder is going to have that mentality and like being able to transmit those values, and that like let's make it happen all together, because we all need to push. And now like my head of operations, he doesn't do only operation. Like if there's a contract that we need to sign or something that we need to do, like he's gonna do it, because now everyone has to do everything. When we get bigger, we're gonna have more dedicated roles, but I'm always going to try to make them realize that they're not only working for Mandioca, but also that Mandioca is their team that they're playing for.
Right.
That we all need to play together and have like that rage inside of them. And you do that also like with motivation, but also by being able to give them some shares of the business, give them commission. So I'm always going to try, and I always do that analogy with them. Like, you have the Mandioca shirt. Make sure that that you make it a valuable day. Or when we go to conferences, like today's the day, like today's game day.
Yeah.
Like we've been training for this. Let's make sure that we make it happen. And so far we've had a lot of success with that. Whenever we grow, it's probably going to become an issue. But I feel that being very good at hiring, is a clue to that. And that's why, like, as of now, I'm extremely involved in the hiring process, but then you need to learn how to delegate. And I feel that with the example you gave me about the hotel, probably on an interview, it's going to be very hard to see, like, maybe he's going to give you some hints that he's going to be like that. But then it's the other side, like, hey, that guy stay at a 5-star hotel, but he's bringing 10x what we've spent.
Absolutely. I mean, but that I was going to say that sometimes happens, that the person who's wonderful keeps within the expense policy, but also they're not very good at the job, whereas the other guy is amazing at the job. So you've got to think about all those things. I mean, personally, I would say that when it comes to building a culture, that it is the key thing is to be extremely aware, right? Very intentional, thinking about what kind of culture you want. So when you say we want to win in Mandioca, and I played paddle with you, so I know that you like to win, and I like playing with you for that reason, but rather than against you. But I think that the conversation about what does winning mean for us, how do we win?
That's a great point.
And then you actually get this stuff written down and you generate it with your people. So when you're still only 30 people, you get those people into a room, you spend some time, because it's their company too now. That's the interesting thing about it, which is that you want them to feel that this is a little bit of, that they have a say and that they're being listened to. And the very best cultures, I think, are built ground up rather than top down. Obviously, there's an element of top down because you're the founder and you've got your work ethic and you've got your vision and everything. But I have a thing I call the API of leadership, which is that's awareness, purpose, and inspiration. So the awareness is understanding yourself, your own strengths, understanding which bits you should delegate, understanding which bits you should hold on to, understanding how people see you when you stand up and talk, etc., etc. And the awareness of your people. I know he's really good at that. I know she's brilliant at that, but actually she's not so good at that, but he is. So I can get them to work together. That awareness is very powerful, I think. And you've also also demonstrated that with your choices around, I want to make sure our company is absolutely kind of squeaky clean when it comes to all the regulations and how we manage things and the trust that our clients have in us. And that in itself is part of the values, right? And then, the purpose is, what are we here for? What are we actually here for? Why are we here? What are we doing? And then the inspiration is the thing that you do bring every day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's very, very interesting what you're saying. And another thing that is extremely important is define success. What's success or winning, like you said, and then making sure that you can transmit that energy and that success and that vision to every single one of the employees, which is something that, since we're not as big, I can do that one-to-one. So we have a trip every single year. So far we've done in Cartagena, and then we have a goal to hit this year that we're definitely going to hit it, and they're going to choose where we're going to go. And over there, I'm able to have one-on-ones with every single employee. And then I'm able to see, I make them rate themselves. Like, what was your rate this year? Like, how do you rate yourself? What do you think you did wrong? How can I help you be better? Right. And the reality is that once we grow bigger, it's going to get more and more and more complicated to be able to do this. But then I realized that that's where the importance of delegate
and the cascade.
Exactly.
I mean, there's absolutely no question in my mind that everything flows down from the top. So if you're the kind of leader that gives off a certain type of impression, I mean, to use silly examples, if you're always late for meetings and you use a lot of swear words, your people will be late and they will use a lot of swear words. If you're always on time, you're always prepared, you always know what you're talking about, and you're very polite, you will generate a group of people.
That is
And
exactly
somebody may come in who doesn't fit, and you're like, man, we just don't talk like that here. Or I'm sorry, but here we turn up on time. It's all part of our respect for each other.
absolutely.
And I think that I genuinely think that companies that work on this, and I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I mean, maybe, you know, turning up late is part of your culture. Doubt it. But the point is that there isn't a right or wrong here. Isn't, oh, you should always be like this, should always be like this. What you need to be is aware of it. And I think just going back to the purpose, listening to you talk, what's so interesting is that, of course, you want to make money. Of course, you want to create wealth. The people who work for you, you want to make money. But it's not even, I was thinking about what is your purpose? Revolutionizing the way people move money around the world. Well, okay, that's fine. That's probably what you do. But it's more than that. It's revolutionizing how people do business. And it's even more than that. It's growing the entire efficiency of the world economy.
Correct.
And that's a pretty exciting purpose for people to be part of that. And I think that that's a very important thing never to lose sight of why we're here, right? We're here to do something really, really important. And just in the same way, like in the kind of the medical world, right? They never have to really think about that because they know that they're doing good. But at the same time, many doctors spend a lot of time on something very small, and some of us can even lose a bit track of the we're here to do good, right? And I think that it's going to be a great thing if over time Mandioca keeps that idea of
That vision, absolutely, absolutely. The not to get into religions or anything like that, but the Buddhism have something absolutely beautiful, and they said that we came to this world with a heroic mission. So make sure that every day you're pursuing that heroic vision.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, I think I'm very excited for your future and the future of this business and the future of the whole sector, if you like. So let's just, you know, what could happen? What could go wrong here? Like, what is the thing that bothers you, in not necessarily in terms of Mandioca and the company, but in just in the overall context? What do you think is the biggest risk?
There's so many, but it would be so hard to point it out. And we have a saying in Mandioca, is that we're always one day away from going broke. A transaction can go wrong.
Right.
The technology missed, and instead of sending 10,000, send 100,000. The compliance missed, and we send money to a company that was not exporting goods into Latin America, and God knows what they're doing. And that's like the operational risk. But now if we take a little bit more macro view, countries can change regulations like this. All of a sudden, I don't know, USDt is illegal. Cryptocurrencies are illegal. Or in X or Y countries, the bank says like, no, we're not going to work with any company that has anything to do with crypto assets. So we have a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of risk surrounding our business. But that has made us very successful because we make every day count. We move like today is the last day. And we're very cautious because today could be the day that we go broke because something happened. And that has helped us mitigate a lot of the risk. But also knowing that if Mandioca fails for X or Y, for something that is away or outside of my control, it's not going to bother me at all. At all.
Yeah, I was just thinking then about controlling the controllables and living with the uncontrollables.
You couldn't say it better.
Because certainly it sounds to me like you're very wisely focusing on making sure that everything that you have in your power to be as absolutely legitimate and following all the rules and everything. And so do you think you've had a situation where somebody's tried to use Mandioca who hasn't been 100%?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so you have a system to say, sorry.
That's the perfect example where we're like, we're not going to do any services. So I'm not even going to say the sector, but we had a service company claiming that they were moving $15 million a month. And then for the country where the company was based, was generating more revenue than third company most successful in that country. Right? There's something a little
bit too good.
odd.
If it looks too good to be true, it probably
It's too good. And then you're always very polite and you always give them the benefit of the doubt. It could be that everything was real, but that's where myself and my compliance team were not comfortable because there's not, whenever you're studying services, it's very hard to track because there's not a bill of landing. There's an invoice, but how do you know if that invoice exists or is real? So that's where we decided that we're only going to be focusing on products, and it's probably one of the best decisions we made.
All right, amazing. Well, look, I think, Leandro, we've had an amazing conversation. I think this is actually not a bad time to draw it to a close. I would like to attach the different URLs so people can go and have a look at your company, learn more about it. If anybody listening wants to get in touch with Leandro, I have learned such a lot in the last hour or so listening to you about how this works and the future and how it's changing everything. And one of the things that I really like about it is that I think I've always felt that there's a feeling, and this definitely, I was around at the beginning of the sort of .com in the year 2000.
Yeah,
I
of
was
course, the
working in a
bubble.
.com company, and I used to often be in a situation where people would come in and tell us about how, you know, banks were going to disappear and supermarkets were, no one's going to go there anymore. And I would often think to myself, and I often thought, I wish I had the guts to say, I think this is not going to happen. But I didn't, because I was going along with everything, right? It's quite difficult to be the person who says, I don't agree with any of that. And some guys come with a 30-page presentation. But I think that just because it can work doesn't mean it will work.
Correct.
Right? And I think what's really interesting about everything you're doing is that it can work, it does work, and it will work because it all makes sense. It's needed by some people today, and there's an opportunity for it to replace other things that are being done a certain way and have been done for a very long time. So it's almost like either of those two things could come true. Maybe you'll never ever be working with Bank of America, but maybe you won't need to.
Correct.
But maybe somebody like you will be working at Bank of America in the future, because in the end, this technology is quicker and better and cheaper. So pretty interesting, I think.
Yes, it is extremely interesting, and thank you very much for giving us this space. It's been a very, very enjoyable conversation. And I'm very looking forward to see where you go with the podcast as well. We'd love to come back anytime.
You bet. We'll have you back in a couple of years if you can afford the time.
Always for you. Only if we win at paddle.
Amazing.
But I'm very looking forward for what the future holds with AI, blockchains, and how it's going to reshape the world.
There's almost so much going on at the moment. It's kind of it makes us feel dizzy, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Leandro, thank you very much, and best of luck with Mandioca.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.